up on the Disturbance? We've got our big Week 1 National Football League top 10 picks worth betting on. With me today, I've got the famous Brad Hoiseth coming to us live and on tape from the great city/state of Southern California. Brad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing spectacular, Mr. Dabbah. We have got football on the slate, which is pretty cool. I don't know about you, but I've gotten a little tired of watching cornhole tournaments on ESPN and the likes. And so I think most of us wondered if this day was going to come, and it's pretty exciting stuff. I would caution, however, against watching good football, because in recent years, I think we've seen on opening day in the first couple of weeks, the NFL has been a pretty sorry, sad sack of you-know-what as a result of all the veteran players generally don't play the preseason anyway, so now you give them nothing, no preseason games, no reps whatsoever, and my thought is that you're probably going to see a lot of sloppy football this weekend, but nonetheless, it's football, and that is something to get excited about.
I was going to say, since this is our very first ever Disturbance betting show, I would say that, rule of thumb this week is, take the over on turnovers yes. Almost across the entire National Football League. It is going to be absolutely sloppy. There'll be a couple teams that actually, sort of have their act together. But most of the teams, especially when you go down, the lower 15 of the teams in the National Football League, like the Jaguars that wouldn't even be in the ACC this year, or the, my joke is that Johnny Manziel's still the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. These teams that are just still on paper look like they have teams, but in reality haven't really meshed in any way yet. And there's really about 10 teams in the National Football League that are pretty solid, in my opinion. Yeah, like you could put them in a top 10 list and you'd feel pretty confident about it. It's all the other guys that it's just going to be a turnover fest. Like, I think they almost need two channels of the red zone to keep up with. They should do a separate, they should do a red zone turnover channel this weekend. It should be a special one week channel.
That's correct. It's but hey, look, there are some pretty good football games this weekend. There's some out of the gate that are intriguing. I mean, I think everybody wants to see what's going to happen with Tampa Bay, and you've got some pretty big rivalry matchups with the Packers and the Vikings, and everybody's going to watch and see how many teams take a knee during the national anthem. There's some things to watch for, and certainly it all gets started here in a few hours, and there's going to be some fun and exciting stuff going on. I don't know about you. I'm going to cook up some bratwurst, get out some sauerkraut. Never ketchup on a bratwurst, however. That's my warning of the week. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it.
The sauerkraut, Safeway delivered the sauerkraut to my house a couple hours ago. I will confess to you, Brad, it wasn't for me. I have to be in the other room when the sauerkraut comes out.
Yeah, that's a weakness on your part. That's a weakness, my friend. I thought you were a Vikings fan growing up, going to the old Mets Stadium as a kid. Maybe you were post Mets Stadium. I'm not sure. How old are you?
No. I got 2 seasons of Met before we moved into the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome.
Yeah, that was a fun place, right?
Yeah. Talk about loud. Anyways, listen, so we've got 10 picks for you this week on our big show. Brad's going to give you his top 5. I'm going to give you my top 5. Mr. Hoiseth, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? Why don't you start with your 5th pick of the week?
Yeah, I mentioned them earlier. Tampa Bay against New Orleans. That game in New Orleans. New Orleans is a -3. They're a 3-point favorite. Everybody's excited to see the transition in Tampa with Brady and Gronkowski and the latest addition of Leonard Fournette. I say pump the brakes a little bit and see what happens with Tampa. None of these guys have taken any real live fire yet, while New Orleans is a well-oiled machine. Very few changes. I don't expect that you're going to see a lot of confusion there. And as much as I like Bruce Arians, he's not Bill Belichick. And that defense was a disaster in 2019. It also could be the last chance for New Orleans this season, who seems to be getting a little up there in age and running out of time to make things happen for another Super Bowl run. I say expect New Orleans to get out of the gate quickly, starting with Tampa Bay. Final, the Saints 30, the Buccaneers 24.
All right. Love it. I agree. Drew Brees is definitely starting to ski down the backside of career mountain at this point. So he's sort of coming down the hill in the wrong direction. So this is definitely, I think, the last year. The window for the Saints is definitely now. I agree with you on that game as well. Moving on to my fifth pick of the week. And for this, I go to upstate New York and the Buffalo Bills at home against the New York Football Jets. Very difficult to do something that I'm about to do. Now, if you take the Bills, you're giving up 7.5 points in this game. And, I generally, just as a rule of thumb, would say never do that with a team, especially in the first week of a National Football League season. It's a risky play at that point. That being said, nobody demotivates players as much as Adam Gase does. And they are such a bad football team at this point. I mean, at least they've got a real GM in Joe Douglas now in New York. He didn't hire Adam Gase. He came in a couple months after Gase was hired, after his disastrous run ended in Miami. I mean, why not hire him if he's got players deciding to just bolt out of Miami? He's the perfect example of an organization that didn't pay any attention to what he had done previous to his appointment to his new job. So Adam Gase, I don't know if you know this, Brad, but as I said, it's all about, especially in the National Football League, it's all about communicating with your players, getting the most out of your players, giving them confidence and really working with them. Sam Darnold, who has, let's face it, sort of like mid-level talent. I never thought Sam Darnold was going to be, a Hall of Famer. I still thought, Kirk Cousins category, right? And with Adam Gase as his head coach, I'm even questioning that. And I think Adam is as well, which is why they are carrying, now wait for this, 3 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster, 2 more on their secondary roster, which they got to extend a little bit because of COVID. Still, they have a 5 quarterback rotation. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like Adam Gase forgot and thought for a minute there that he was actually managing the New York Mets, not the New York Jets. Take Buffalo, Stephon Diggs, a nice addition. 2 great young running backs in Buffalo as well. Singletary, who did a really nice job last year, is looking to continue. And honestly, one of the funnest, strongest arms in the National Football League today is Josh Allen. I would go ahead and take those 7.5 points and go with Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. And I agree on Josh Allen. I think he's one of the more talented and exciting young quarterbacks in the league. I think Buffalo's got an opportunity there with Tom Brady leaving town to New England and a disastrous Miami team, and, of course, the Jets. I'm with you. I saw your top 10 teams the other day, and I agree with you. I think the Bills are a hot young team, and they got a good hot young quarterback, and now he's got an extra weapon to use. My number 4 pick of the week, I'm going to take the Colts -8 at Jacksonville. While all the other 31 teams in the league are trying to at least continue the mirage that they're excited about this season. The Jacksonville Jaguars have made no bones about it that they are in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, a month before the season even starts. And so, they failed on the season. Minshew has missed time with COVID. They dealt Leonard Fournette at the final bell. Take Indy on the road. I say final score, Colts 31, Jacksonville 20.
Yeah, I think you're being too kind to Jacksonville with 20. I think that's a little too kind for me. Look, yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. This actually really sort of pisses me off. It's a brand new National Football League season. You had all off season to sort of devise a strategy to at least give yourself a chance to improve. Getting into this whole, Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, it's not like he's a sure thing. Look, you can find great quarterbacks later in other rounds. It doesn't have to be at the top of the draft. So I'm just I hate it when teams do this whole trust the process thing, which is exactly what Jacksonville is doing at this point. And I think it would be a lot more fun if they actually at least Brad gave us a quarter of the season where they actually tried before they gave up on it.
Yeah, but you know what? They got to beat the Jets to Trevor Lawrence. Otherwise, the Jets are going to have 6 quarterbacks next year at this time.
Yeah, I mean, so another young quarterback for Adam Gase to room.
That's right.
Like, it's just, look at poor Josh Rosen. He can't even get on a roster any place at this point. His career's over. They had Adam Gase to deal with. Okay, so moving on to my fourth pick. And this pick is really my gift to Brad Hoiseth. Call it a early holiday gift to Brad Hoiseth. It is the Bears playing against the Lions. Lions are at home. The Bears are a 3.5 point. They're a 3.5 point favorite in this one. Brad, I have to ask you, how far do you think the Lions are going to go this year?
Hey, nobody knows how to play in front of nobody like the Lions. Do not underestimate those Detroit Lions this year. They got their quarterback back, and I know that you're having fun, but I think the Detroit Lions are going to be a surprise team. I think that's a division right there where the Packers are starting to get a little long in the tooth. The Vikings got a lot of confusion going on both sides of the ball. The Bears are the Bears, and I know how much you like Nick Foles in the backup role there. Don't discount these Detroit Lions. They could be a different kind of – it might remind you of the Wayne Fontes Lions when they came out of the blue. Remember that?
Yeah. Nobody until Marvin Lewis could coach a team to 8-8 like Wayne Fontes. So, look, I think, for the Chicago Bears, and I'm taking Detroit in this game, for the Chicago Bears to make the decision to go ahead, and I'm going to try to stay calm about this today, to go ahead and spend all this money on Nick Foles and bring him in, and then tell Nick that he's competing for a chance to be the starting quarterback, and then for the GM of the Bears to go on national television like 3 days ago, just talking about how great Mitch Trubisky has been with his players since he got here. It's a whole new Mitch Trubisky. It's a whole new attitude. Still, reports coming back from training camp had it a very close battle between the two, and apparently it was almost a 50-50 split. So you bring in a quarterback, you give him a lot of money, and Nick Foles, you expect him to win the job. He obviously doesn't win the job. And you're back where you were before you signed him and gave him all that money. Look, the Bears organization is a little bit of a mess. I suspect that midway through the season, they will have figured some stuff out and will be a decent football team. I just think at the beginning of this season, especially going into Detroit, because we all know there's actually going to be more crowd noise in Detroit with no fans in the stands than there would have been if there were fans in the stands. So I expect Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions team to win this game by well more than 3.5 points. I can tell you that.
All right, well, let's move into my number 3 pick, shall we? And it's going to be one that hurts Dave Dabbah a little bit, being the big Minnesota Vikings fan. Green Bay, 2.5 point dog at Minnesota. I will take the Packers all day long. The Vikes have a lot of new faces on both sides of the ball. They were roughed up at the end of the season by the Packers last year when Zadarius Smith made their offensive line look like a turnstile. Unfortunately for the Vikings, nothing's changed up front. The defense has a lot of new faces for Aaron Rodgers to pick on. Another setback for the Vikings. Daniel Hunter now is put on IR with a neck injury. I just see the Vikings out of the gate struggling heavily on offense. Kirk Cousins under pressure. We know he likes to put the ball on the rug. Not very good offensive line play. I say take the Packers on the road in Minnesota. Final score, Packers 26, Vikings 17.
Yeah, so much to unpack there, Brad. So much. Geez, I don't know where to start. First of all, I think that the Viking offense is going to is actually going to win this game for the Vikes. I actually had the Vikes covering the spread and pulling this game off by 4 or 5 points. I don't believe in what Aaron Rodgers said earlier in the week when Aaron Rodgers came out and said, our team is sort of, hiding under the radar and we're going to be a much better team this year than before. And, Brad, it was almost like their PR guy got to him and said, here's a script for you, Aaron, say this. And that's really what it sounded like. Because what quarterback actually goes out and starts telling members of the press that they're sort of riding under the radar? Hey, I want to draw a bunch of attention to myself, and I'm going to yell that we're under the radar. You're no longer under the radar the second you start yelling that you're under the radar. It just makes no sense. So I think the Packers are actually in real trouble on the defensive side of the ball. We know Aaron Rodgers can throw a football to my next door neighbor. So it doesn't matter really who they put out on the field. Their offense will be fine, but that defense is going to be atrocious this year. And I think the Vikings are going to run all over it, which is why I differ from Hoiseth on this particular game. Any last thoughts on this one?
It's always a great battle early season, the Vikings and the Packers. And, I don't think there's any question for the Vikings anyways, that is their top rivalry in all of the league. I'm not sure how Packers fans, I don't know if they consider the Vikings their top rivalry or maybe it's the Bears. I'm not quite sure. But certainly for Vikings fans, one encouraging thing is that they won't have to see a third of their stadium filled with Packer fans this weekend. I just see, I just saw the Vikings at the end of the year. I think it was in December, really struggle trying to hold back the pressure from the Packers, and I just haven't seen enough there to make me believe that that's going to change. Some 8-9 months later, they haven't put the pieces together, and you got 2 young wide receivers and BC Johnson and Justin Jefferson, who's probably going to play quite a bit. I see Cousins having a lot of pressure on him, and Cousins can be a formidable quarterback when he gets time to throw it. He can make the throws, but that guy just has an incredible propensity to put the football on the rug when he's under pressure, and turnovers are big in this game. I see the Packers coming up with a few of them winning that game.
Hoiseth, I can't wait. I can't wait for next week's show when we reveal who was right and who was wrong, because that's going to be absolutely huge. Okay, so moving on to my third pick of the week, I've got the Arizona Cardinals coming here to the San Francisco Bay Area. There is the there's some air issues here with some massive fires going on in Northern California. So it is possible this game will be canceled or moved. Assuming this game actually happens, the San Francisco 49ers are giving up 7 to the Arizona Cardinals. And as down as I am on the San Francisco 49ers this year, I'm not down enough on them yet to pick the Cardinals to come into Levi's Stadium and take down the 49ers week 1. Now, look, I think this 49er team is not nearly as good as everybody is predicting. There are people predicting across the sports media that the 49ers are going to return to the Super Bowl. I guess they didn't see DeForest Buckner got traded. I guess they didn't notice Emmanuel Sanders jetted out the door. Did they not know Matt Breida is gone? What about all of the injuries the 49ers have had during training camp? I mean, these aren't just like little nicks and bruises. These are players that are going to be out for a quarter or half of the season. This is not the same team, Brad, that took down the Minnesota Vikings in the second round of the playoffs last year and flat out destroyed them. And also at the same time, I guess it was more the Vikings who fleeced me out of like $1,000 to go to that game in the first place. But it is one of those things where I think, you know, they've got enough young talent, enough solid pieces in place. Arizona is going to be better this year, but I do have the 49ers winning this easily. One thing to take a quick look at when you're watching this game that could happen, and it's a real thing, which is Jimmy G still shell-shocked from his failure in the Super Bowl? What do you think, Brad?
You know, I think, I don't know. I like Jimmy G. I think it's not the dynamic offense, I think, that people would like to see. It's always been, for the last year anyways, was an offense that had a great offensive line. And I'm going to disagree with you on this. I think the addition of Trent Williams at left tackle, I think they're going to have a big weekend running the football. I expect a big game out of Raheem Mostert. I think they have some young kids, and like you said, they are nicked up and they're dinged up. You know, Deebo Samuel's been dealing with some injuries, and so. But I do like some of the young kids there. I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be a star at some point. Kendrick Bourne is a really solid young athlete. Obviously, they got one of the best tight ends in the game. I think the 49ers are still a very formidable football team. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's a serviceable quarterback. I think he's above average. And I think that they'll have some success. But I agree with you. They do have some early injuries, and that's a little unsettling. And we don't even know if really they might switch the venue for that game because of all the smoke up at Levi's Stadium. I'm not quite sure, but I'm with you. I take the 49ers in that game.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm with you on that as well. You know, the Arizona Cardinals, as much fun as this offense is going to be with DeAndre Hopkins, who just got that huge contract, as you know, as entertaining as this will be for us to watch, you know, Kyler Murray develop more this year. One thing that you have to remember is that one of the bottom 3 National Football League defenses was in Arizona last year. And so while they made a lot of great strides in the offseason with some significant pickups and some good moves during the draft, we still have to wait and see how it all meshes together. So in week 1, San Francisco, allegedly at home, you know, this should be a 49er victory, and they should be able to cover that really, you know, high note of 7 points.
Yeah, another thing about Arizona is that a year ago, they went into the season with the worst offensive line in football. And they really didn't make a lot of upgrades. But their offense on paper, their offensive line looked better. And that was because Kyler Murray has mobility. I mean, previously, they had guys that were, you know, like statues in the backfield. And so I'm really not sure they've made a tremendous amount of upgrades. I think they bring in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, which allows Kyler Murray to be able to get rid of the ball earlier. I mean, I think they're one of the young, exciting teams to watch. I just don't know that all the pieces come together that quickly. But that's an interesting game on paper. My number 2 game of the week is Carolina +3 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. And that sounds a little strange to say. But once again, the Raiders have uprooted themselves and moved to a new city. And I'm going to take Carolina in this game with the 3 points. In my opinion, neither team is worth talking about when it comes to making the playoffs. However, Carolina does have some stability on offense, playing against one of the worst defenses in all of football. The Raiders ranked in the bottom 5 last year on defense. I'm going to give you some names here to look at when it comes to the Raiders' depth chart on defense. This is their starters on defense: Clelin Ferrell, Jonathan Hankins, Malik Collins, Max Crosby, Nicholas Morrow, that's a big name, Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littlejohn, Damon Arnett. Are any of these the guys ringing a bell for you, Dabbah? Trayvon Mullen, LaMarcus Joyner, Eric Harris, Jonathan. These are not household names. And as much as the Raiders want us to be excited about a new venue and a great new stadium, I don't see this as a very good football team on paper. As much as Carolina is not that exciting to look at either. I think at least they have, they have a serviceable guy at quarterback. They have a great running back, and they have some pieces in place that they get the win this weekend. I say Carolina 30, Las Vegas 24 on opening day.
Yep, I agree with you. Nobody gives a motivational speech like the Carolina Panthers' new head coach, Matt Rule. I'm just saying. I saw him give his introduction speech when he accepted the job for the Carolina Panthers, and I was motivated. I was ready to dump all the Viking gear, remove all of the San Francisco 49er gear from the kids' rooms, and replace it all with Panther gear. Look, the Panthers are not going to be as bad as everybody thinks they are. And part of that is coaching. I believe, Matt Rule is going to find a way to sort of get the players in that he wants to get into his system. It's going to take a year or two. But I guarantee, sort of unlike what's happening in Cincinnati, there is a plan in place that Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers have put together, and they're, laying the groundwork for executing it. And I believe, this is like a layup for them, having to deal with Derek Carr in the first week at home against the Las Vegas Raiders, the NFL hates the Raiders. They're making them fly across the country week 1. Week 1, they got to go 3,000 miles.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on Derek Carr. I mean, he is the epitome of inconsistency. They have 2 really good young wide receivers that are going to be rookies. But it's and they got a great young running back in Josh Jacobs. So, I mean, they have that, and their offensive line is not bad. But, again, a lot of new pieces. I just think it's going to be at the beginning of the season for some of these teams that have so many new pieces. As I mentioned at the very beginning, we've seen some pretty poor football on opening day in recent years, and a lot of that is because the veterans opted to take most of the preseason off. Well, now you have no preseason. And if the Raiders, you're bringing in 2 rookies at wide receiver, and reportedly both of them might start. I just think it's a recipe that Carolina knows exactly what's coming. Derek Carr, he's the wild card in this thing, because Derek Carr can look really good at times. And then at times he just makes a pass and you go, where was he throwing that thing? And so which Derek Carr will show up? I say it's opening day on the road. I said I think it's the Derek Carr that doesn't look very good. I'm taking the Panthers.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so Brad, we're going to move on to my second pick of my top 5. Now, Interestingly enough, this game has the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Los Angeles to play the Los Angeles Rams at that brand new, beautiful SoFi Stadium in where Hollywood Park used to be. Brad, I don't know if you ever spent any time at Hollywood Park.
I have been to Hollywood Park, actually. It was a long, long time ago.
Yep.
It wasn't a particularly, it wasn't a particularly beautiful racetrack back in the day, but I have been to Hollywood Park, yes.
So my parents took me when I was a kid to Hollywood Park, and it was free phone day. So I walked away with a free phone that I had in my bedroom in my parents' house when I was growing up for like 10 years. And Hollywood Park got it. Free
phone day. Who gives away a phone?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is way before mobile, right? So, anyways, so in this game, you've got the Cowboys, who are favorites to win this game by 3 on the road against the Rams. Now, this is an interesting game for me because a couple things. One, I have the Los Angeles Rams being a vastly improved football team this year. I believe that the Los Angeles Rams, if things go right throughout the season, could be one of the teams that's actually vying for a shot at the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I believe more in the Los Angeles Rams than any other team in that division, which is a shock when you consider you've got Seattle, and we all know what a good coach Pete Carroll is, an improving Cardinal team, and what San Francisco did last year. A big part of this is that I just don't believe in San Francisco's depth chart because of all the injuries that they've sort of had in training camp to this point. So I see a lot of great opportunity for the Los Angeles Rams to maybe even be the dominant team in the NFC West this year. That being said, on the other side of the fence, I believe in the Dallas Cowboys even more. Now, Brad, I haven't given you the 2 teams that I think are going to be in the Super Bowl yet this year.
I'm going to take a guess at those before you get into that, but I think I know where you're going with all this.
So I got the Cowboys winning the NFC East, and so the Super Bowl matchup that I think we're going to be looking at is the Cowboys versus and I'm going out on a limb here, the Kansas City Chiefs.
And by the way, 2 teams that have beaten your Vikings in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Just had to get that out of the way.
Yes. So and if I'm picking, and I'll do.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Did I just say the Cowboys have beaten the Vikings in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, you got that.
Well, I was thinking the Drew Pearson push-off that allowed the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl. Sorry about that. I had to.
And I got in trouble for yelling at the TV, telling them to hurt him as a kid. Anyways, so I mean, I think the Cowboys, Kansas City in the Super Bowl. I'm just going to say this real quick. I think this is a fantastic football team on paper. It is probably one of the strongest teams in the NFC on paper. It's not getting any of the sort of respect that New Orleans is getting at this point because, let's face it, it's Jerry Jones who refused to give Dak Prescott that big contract. There's some method to this madness. I would say and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but my pick to win the Super Bowl this year is the Dallas Cowboys. And that is something that I don't think anybody else is doing. But they do have a lot of great talent on the offensive side of the ball. One of the best young wide receivers coming out of the draft in CeCe Lamb. I think the Cowboys are actually going to go in to Los Angeles and beat the Rams in their new home opener at SoFi Stadium by a touchdown.
Very, very interesting there, Mr. Dabbah. Anytime there's talk of the Dallas Cowboys, that is a team, the Cowboys, that there seems to be no middle ground on. It's kind of like the Yankees.
Yeah.
You either really love them or you really hate them, and you have somehow become the only human alive to go right down the middle with it. Because I know, being a Vikings fan, that has to partially hurt to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really more of an objective opinion. I mean, like, you know,
You have no objectivity.
well, when the season ends, you know, you take a look at all the roster moves. You look at what the team's done in the offseason with the draft, and you look at who they've retained, and you look at the contracts that they've given out to who they've given them to. Look, there's extra motivation for Dak Prescott this year to win a Super Bowl so he can get a Joe Flacco style contract. And Jerry Jones will show him the money if he does do that. It's unfortunate that he has to go to that level. But I think this is the other part of this, which is really important as well, which is the Marvin Lewis of the NFC is finally gone. You know, Jason Garrett has probably been holding back this Cowboy organization for at least 2 years. And bringing in Mike McCarthy as the head coach, he's got about a 24-month window to get this thing done with this team. And I think they have enough young talent. They've got enough veterans. That's a strong offensive line. We all know Ezekiel Elliott is a great running back. If Amari Cooper can avoid the 8 games of missed hamstring games, then like our buddy Adam Thielen, then I think the Cowboys are a legitimate Super Bowl contender this year.
All right, I'm going to go into my top pick of the week. A team that everybody loves in August, and everybody hates them in November. And that team is the Cleveland Browns, who open as a 7.5-point dog at home against the Baltimore Ravens. A little history here on the Browns. In the last 21 years, Dabbah, can you tell me on opening day how many times the Browns have won a football game?
Oh, God. On opening day in the last how many years? 25
21 years.
The Browns have probably, if I know anything about the Browns, I'm going to say they've won like twice.
The Cleveland Browns on opening day since 1999 are 1-19-1.
There we go. I was close.
I mean, so nobody gets the fans more excited during the offseason than Cleveland, and then disappoints like immediately. It's not, Cleveland doesn't just become bad during the course of the season. They are bad to open the season. And my guess is that they're going to be bad again this year to open the season. Their lone win, by the way, was against the Ravens back in 2004. But a few other stats to throw your way. Since then, Cleveland has had 13 different starting quarterbacks on opening day, and now 9 different head coaches. Baltimore is a 7.5-point dog. I say they're still pissed off about losing to Tennessee in the playoffs. Baltimore, 37. The Cleveland Browns, 20.
Yeah, I believe that this is an easy one. Baltimore definitely is going to win this by at least you know, a touchdown or 2 or 10 points, I would say. Look, Lamar Jackson got shut down by the Titans. The Titans filled the box, wouldn't allow him to get past the line of scrimmage during the playoff game. They figured out how to prevent the Lamar Jackson version of the rushing offense from actually functioning. Cleveland will sort of duplicate that to some extent. Everybody's going to do that early in the season. Harbaugh is going to be far more conservative with Lamar, especially at the beginning of the season as it relates to running the ball. So the Ravens are going to shock the world on Sunday. And Lamar Jackson's going to throw for like 400 yards. It's going to be a completely different Lamar Jackson on Sunday.
The last quarterback to win on opening day for the Cleveland Browns was a guy you're familiar with, living up in the Bay Area, Jeff Garcia. Okay? Since then, we've seen Trent Dilfer, Charlie Fry, Derek Anderson, Brady Quinn, Jake Delhomme, Colt McCoy, was the quarterback there. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's a who's who of guys that have been a disappointment. Brian Hoyer, Josh McCown, Robert Griffin III, Tyrod Taylor, Deshaun. Remember Deshaun Kaiser? I mean, he didn't work out real well. Again, nobody disappoints like the Cleveland Browns, and they get it out of the way on opening day. They masquerade nothing. I say the Ravens. I say they absolutely destroy Cleveland on opening day. I said 37-20. The game won't be that close.
Yeah. My joke all week has been, hey, so I can't wait to see how Johnny Manziel plays.
That's right.
That's like I just say I can't wait. Look, I want to like Baker Mayfield.
Who doesn't love the Browns at the end of August? Yeah. Beginning of September, everybody loves the Browns.
I mean, you want to like Baker Mayfield. You like his swagger. You sort of like his thing. It's just his game doesn't really, back it up much. He's really just, I don't know, Case Keenum comes to mind. He's like, he's like a significantly worse quarterback than your guy in Detroit.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even fair to mention him in the name in the same way with your Detroit Lions quarterback. All right. So we'll leave Matthew Stafford out of this argument completely.
First of all, let me clarify something real quick.
Yeah.
I think Matthew Stafford is a very inconsistent quarterback. But he's better than Mitch Trubisky. And he's better than Kirk Cousins. I hate to break it to you.
And he's better than Baker Mayfield.
He is better than Baker Mayfield, yes.
Yeah, I would say he's like significantly better than Baker. I always wondered, like if they took Matthew Stafford and they put him on the Patriot team from 3 years ago, or they took Stafford and they put him on, another team that's a well-oiled offensive team, would he have a chance to make a run at a Super Bowl? I mean.
Yeah, how about just running the ball a little bit? I mean, what did it go, like 7 years between the 100-yard rushing games? I mean, I just don't think they've given the guy a tremendous amount of help at coach. And, they've had running backs. They've had some decent running backs there. And they just have never made an effort. It's almost like they spent all this money on Stafford. Okay, now we got to show the people the brand new Lamborghini. And, sometimes the best recipe is just run the ball a little bit and give your quarterback a chance.
Yeah. With Halloween just 6 weeks away, is this the time of the year that the ghost of Barry Sanders starts to show up at Ford Field? Is that sort of what's been preventing this team from, look, there's been no organizational commitment to the run game. Once or twice a year, they come out and say, we're going to go do this. We're going to draft this guy. We're going to bring in this guy. And there's, a loose commitment to it. And sort of like the Browns at the beginning of the season, they're going to be bad. With Detroit, 3 or 4 games into the season, they're going to give up on the run entirely.
Yeah, it seems to be a team that has always run into injury problems as well. They did go out and draft DeAndre Swift this year, so I do see them maybe giving Stafford's arm a little bit of rest this year and trying to run the ball a little bit more. A defensive-minded coach, so I have a little more optimism for the Lions this year than you do.
I know you. I think you picked them to win the NFC North.
Yeah, I don't recall that, but
You're deny. We got it on tape. All right, last game of the week for our big Disturbance bet line show of the week, our top 10. We've got the Thursday night game against Houston. It's Kansas City at home against Houston. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Really. Look. 9.5 points you've got to give to the Texans. You can't do that in a first game of the National Football League season. This is This is a well-run Houston Texans team. I think Brad's probably going to disagree with me here, but I think Kansas City's going to win. I just don't think they're going to win by 9.5. I think this game's going to be a lot tighter than you imagine. Bill O'Brien as a general manager is horrific. Bill O'Brien as a head coach is actually one of the top 7 or 8 coaches in the National Football League, probably 8. But I mean, he is. He's won his division every year except for 1 year as a head coach. He knows what he's doing. The Texans will be ready to go. They will run the ball. They'll be in a ball control offense of sorts. Their quarterback, as you know, Deshaun Watson just got himself a new contract. This is a far better Houston Texans team than you might like to admit going into this first game of the season. Kansas City's going to win, but they're not going to cover.
I don't know. This is one of those games that I'm just kind of staying away from. Houston to me is just the ultimate Heckle and Jekyll team. You just don't really know what to expect. Just when you think they're good, they lay an egg, and then they go on a run, and you start thinking they're good again, and then they lay an egg when you start believing in them. The loss at DeAndre Hopkins, I think, really handcuffs them in this game. Will Fuller has been a nice wide receiver for a number of years, but I'm not quite sure that he's the number one guy. I don't know. I think Kansas City just on opening night, they're still living in the haze of winning the Super Bowl. The question is, will it go to their heads and cost them on opening night? I don't think so. I don't think a lot has changed there. I mean, yeah, Damian Williams is gone, but I think running back is probably the easiest position to replace on the offense. So I see Kansas City winning this game, but that line was a little funky. I just don't have an opinion on whether or not you go with the Chiefs or whether you take Houston in that one.
All right, and there you have it. Now, time to put Brad Hoiseth on the spot before we get out of here. It's put Brad on the spot time.
Uh-oh.
I got to come up with a graphic for that.
What's coming? What's coming? What could possibly be coming to put me on the spot?
Mr. Hoiseth, who are your picks to play in the Super Bowl this year, and who's going to win it all?
Wow. That is a challenge. Boy, that one came out of the blue. I mean, I never knew on opening day I was supposed to think about the Super Bowl already, Dabbah, but I should have known, given you, that was the kind of question that come up. I'm going to go, how about this? How about the New Orleans Saints represent the NFC? I think they've been kind of flirting with it for a number of years. I think Sean Payton's a pretty darn good coach. I think on both sides of the ball, they're pretty solid. I mean, in recent years, so much of it has been hinged on injuries. There seems to be so many injuries in football now. But I think the New Orleans Saints are a pretty solid football team in the NFC. The AFC, obviously, you'd have to think that the Chiefs would be one of the favorites to be there. I don't know that the Patriots are a real solid choice anymore without Brady. It would seem like they've lost. I always have to consider the Steelers could make a run. They always seem to kind of be there just when you think that they're done. But I'm not sure Roethlisberger has got a lot left in the tank there. I don't see anybody making a real charge from the West. In Denver, they're still a few pieces away. The Chargers now have got Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. The young kid doesn't look like he's going to play for a while. The Dolphins are terrible. The Jets are awful. The Bills maybe could give a challenge. Tennessee, I like to believe, is a little bit too one-dimensional. So I'm going to say that the Kansas City Chiefs get back to a second Super Bowl where they play the New Orleans Saints. How's that? You're not going to make me take a winner, are you?
You have to, because
God, please.
Now you can do this at the quarter of the way through the season, halfway through the season, and 3/4 of the way through the season. That's how we roll. That's how we do things. But you actually have to say before the first kickoff who you think's going to win the whole thing. Now I've got the Cowboys, which makes me the only person out of Texas to say that.
You know, I think just because of the injury thing, should Drew Brees sustain an injury, you do have the other kid, Taysom Hill, there. I'm not sure that you have the backup options in Kansas City should Mahomes suffer a little bit of some sort of injury. I'm going to go with the Saints. That is my early preseason prognostication, as absurd as it may be, to win the Super Bowl.
There we go. And that is our first ever Put Brad on the Spot segment, brought to you by nobody. Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to our big show. It has been fun. We will be doing this show periodically throughout the entire season, so stay tuned. If you haven't already subscribed to the big show, please go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. We look forward to catching you on the next one. For Brad Hoiseth, I am Dave Dabbah, reminding you that for more semi-witty sports commentary, make sure you check out our sports website at mighty.rip.